Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Paper Crafting Saturday. I'm Leslie Watkins. Today I have a really fun note card to show you, and I'm going, excuse me, I'm going to be, oh, I think it's time for coffee. Cheers everybody. Okay, let's try that again. Today I'm going to be making a note card for you, and I'm going to be using the Nature's Prints stamp set with the dies. These two come together as a bundle, and when you buy the bundle you get 10% off. I will be listing all the supplies that I used today in the description after I do the video. I'm also using the Queen Bee bundle, and that looks like that. Again, 10% off when you get the dies and the stamps together. I have my 3D Hive embossing folder, and I've gone ahead and I have cut out all the pieces to help make the video go a little bit faster today. And I have here some other odds and ends. So in my little portfolio here, which has the Queen Bee on the cover, I have some die cuts. I've got some gold. I've got some of the gold vellum using the 3D embossing folder. So just in case I need a little bit extra, I have this ready to go. And then also in here, I have some of these little vellum flowers that I have heat embossed and then punched out with the Petal Park punch. But I don't know that we're going to need these today, but I just like to have them handy. So what I have here, I've got a roll of the gold shimmer ribbon. I have a goodie bag with some items that I've already heat embossed, stamped, and die cut out. Here's some more of that honeycomb embossed shimmer vellum. Now the gold shimmer vellum is no longer available, but you can also use regular vellum and add a little bit of gold ink with your, or gold sparkle using your Versamark pad. You could also use some of the So Saffron. So for the color palette today, I'm using Mossy Meadow, So Saffron. I also used the Mossy Meadow ink, and I used a little bit of the Old Olive cardstock. Okay, so it looks something like that. So let's begin with the basics. Now before I start, I just want to make sure that you can hear me. Okay, that looks good. And I see Vicky, Kelly, and Jan. Jan says that she's doing some gardening. We just, Yesterday was a very spring-like day here, but today we're back to winter. It's snowing out. So no gardening today, but boy, I have been walking around the property and there's so many broken branches and limbs down. There's going to be a lot of tree work coming right up. All right, so thank you for joining me. Let's get the card base. So this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 standard card base. I'm not going to be giving you all of the measurements today because I will be making a PDF, and that PDF is going to be available in my the emails that I send out over the weekend. I've got a bunch of emails that I'm going to be sending out to reminding you of the hardbound journal workshop and the watercolor card club, which is only has a couple more days to subscribe. And so if you're interested in getting the PDF with all the measurements and the supply list, please make sure that you subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage. You can do that on my website, which is dandelioncottagedesign.com, or you can also find the link in the description here on this page, or later you'll find it below. But you want to subscribe to Notes, and that way you'll be sure to be notified of all of my upcoming classes, workshops, the watercolor card club, and specials like this PDF that you're going to find in the next one. So please do that. So I've got some pieces of mossy meadow here ready to go, and I've also gone ahead and I've die cut the queen bee, and I think you can see that here. I've got the wings that I've cut out of the vellum, and in the bag there is this very tiny little heart, okay, and that's part of the die set, and you can see that it's just teensy tiny. And for this heart, it's a tiny little die, and I used the brushed gold metallic paper because I wanted it to be shinier than the distressed gold. You probably don't have to do that, but if you want to go the little bit extra to make it a little more special, I would recommend using either that or the regular gold foil paper, so that's nice and shiny. Then I also have all these die cuts, and these were made using the dies from here. Okay, so this is the natural print. So I cut this beautiful wreath, and this wreath die is actually pretty spectacular. You'll see it in action a little bit later, but it's got loads of detail and it's so pretty. And I'm planning on using this quite a bit in some projects coming right up. And then you've got these very pretty little kind of swags with leafy design, and then you have the framelits to cut out the shapes. So I went ahead and I did a bunch of that. So I've inked, sponged, I've done a little bit of heat embossing, and using this set, also used a couple of items from the queen bee that I have ready to go. So I'm not necessarily going to be using these, but I have them in my stash. All right. So the first thing you're going to do with your card base is grab the trimmer, and I'm going to get the cutting blade out of the way. This lighter colored one is the scoring wheel, and what I want to do is I want to find the center. So that is 2 3/4, and I'm just going to use the scoring blade to put a little bit of a tick mark there. Okay, so it's right there. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but it's just enough to let me know where that measurement is. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on each side. Okay, and then what I can do is, using those tick marks, I can line them up with the track of my trimmer. And I'm going to have to get my head in here because I can't see where that is. Alright, so that's all lined up, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to score on the diagonal like that. I'm going to flip it around, do exactly the same thing on the other side. So now I can just fold those triangles up and I get this kind of a configuration. All right, so that is what I'm calling the triangle pocket card. I'm going to go ahead and give that a nice burnish. And that's my card base. Next, I have a piece that I cut out that's going to fit nicely in here, like so. And I'm going to use this as a base for some of my die cuts, and also for my honeycomb. So what I want to do with the honeycomb is I want to get a nice rough edge. So I'm going to tear away that cut edge so it looks a little more natural. Okay, and that's going to go along there, something like that. And then what I'm going to do is flip it over, sort of get that where I want it, and then flip it over, and I'm just going to use that point as a guide. And these can be used for something else. I want to make sure I don't have any overlapping. So just want to make sure that I get all those loose edges torn away. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and glue that down really well, and I'm going to pay a special attention to the edges because this is going to slide inside the pocket. So I just want to make sure that there are no jagged bits that are going to get caught as it goes in and out. So paying special attention to these edges. That situated on my base. Give that a good burnish. Peel off a little bit over here. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, I'm just going to put this aside to dry. Now, I used some DSP that I really like. So this kind of a green floral background comes from the Dainty Delights paper. So that was the set called, the DSP is called Dainty Flowers. This was the 12 by 12 DSP that you could get for free during celebration. But you can use any DSP that you happen to have in your stash that you like and just coordinate it with your other colors. Now what I want to do here is I want to add a piece to the front of my card, just like so, and in order to do that I'm going to find the center and just give it a little pinch. All right, so it looks like that, so I can see where my center point is. I'm going to grab my trimmer, and this time I'm going to be using the cutting blade, and I'm going to line up this point and this point. If you're using directional DSP, you want to make sure that you know which side is up and which side is down. So you want this point to be at the bottom. Exactly the same thing on this side. So all I'm doing is lining up this point with this corner in the track of the trimmer. And I'm going to end up with 3 pieces that look like this. Okay, and you can see that the top of the paper is pointing this way and the bottom down here. I'm just going to burnish out that pinch mark that I made with my bone folder, and then I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to add it to my flaps. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want any glue to get into the middle here and seep through. Now I can take my big triangle and I can just set that right on top, and I'm just gently pressing it down so it's nice and flat. And I'm just sort of pulling it down a little so that it's more equal. Let me straighten that out a bit. So it's more equal to the lower edge than the upper edge. When you've got that where you want it, just go ahead burnish that down well. And that's going to form your pocket on the front of the card. Now these two little extra triangles are going to go on either corner. That on there nice and straight. Hi Teresa from Florida and Carol, nice to see you both here. Thank you for joining me. All right, and I'm just going to get that situated. All right, so there is the bottom portion of the front of the card. Now while I'm here, I also have a piece of Very Vanilla that I'm going to use inside the card. And this is where you can write your note. Okay, so that's the basic design of the envelope pocket card. Sorry, must be time for coffee. Now I do have a little bit of glue that I'm just going to rub away. This is a basic glue eraser. You can get these online, and if you don't have one, I really recommend that you get one. Okay, all right, so now we're just about ready to begin decorating. So this piece is going to fit inside the pocket like so. All right, and what I want to do first is I'm going to use this is my, oh, that's the too big one. Wait a second. This one. This is my 1/8 of an inch hole punch. And I'm just going to measure. So if I just kind of flip this over, what I can do is I can find the center, which is here, and then I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch on either side and put a little dot. Okay, so it looks something like that. And then I can come in with my hole punch and just put two little holes, something like that. My ribbon is going to go right through there, back out to the front. And I'm using about 10 inches of ribbon, and you can adjust that accordingly. Just want to make sure that that's laying flat on the back. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, and then on the front, I'm going to tie a simple bow. Now I'm doing this before I start decorating because I want to make sure that my bow is free and clear of any of the added embellishments that I'm going to be adding to this. Just get that the way you want it. Okay. So that's what we've got so far. Now, we're going to do a little decorating. Now remember that beautiful wreath that I had mentioned? Here it is. And I'm talking about this wreath here in the Natural Prints die set. Hi Sandra from California. We've got people from all across the country today. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, if you look closely at this wreath, first of all, look at how gorgeous that is. I just love these little leaves and the ferns. I'm a big lover of shady places. So I'm sure you all know by now how much I enjoy gardening and plants. I particularly like shady plants and ferns, so I was very attracted to this set. If you notice on this wreath, there's kind of a little pointy bit down here. I'm going to use that to come down into the point of the lower part of the triangle here. So what I want to do then is I want to snip this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to use my snips to kind of indicate the shape of that leaf. So it looks something like that. Take another look, and I can see that I'm going to snip right over here. Two places. Okay, so that's going to give me this beautiful little piece that I can adhere, that will fit beautifully inside of this triangular shape. I like this this ferny wreath so much that I would probably get the die set just for this one die alone. But I also love that it also has the framelits for all of the stamped images, which you're going to see the result in just a moment. Okay, so there's a very delicate application of glue, and I'm going to grab my tweezers. And then I'm going to be careful to get that corner piece right where I want it. Just tap that down. And I think that's beautiful. Okay, now, next, I'm going to go into my goodie bag of all of these wonderful die cuts that I made using this set. So I've got these pretty flowers that I use gold heat embossing on So Saffron. So as you can see, I've got an assortment of those ready to go. I've got various little leaves and stems that I've cut out using the distressed gold paper. And then I have all of these things. So these are the stamped ferns, which I stamped and sponged using the Mossy Meadow ink. Some of them are on old olive paper, and then I've got a couple. I think this was pear pizzazz, so you can just experiment, see what you like. Make sure you get all those little spacers out. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take these great big maidenhair fern shapes, okay, and I want one to come up, get my ribbon out of the way, I want one to come up into this corner like that, and I want the other one to come up into that corner, something like that. So I can pull out my little insert, and I'm going to go ahead and glue those down. I'm going to be careful not to get glue on my ribbon. And I'm just kind of following the shape of the card as it bends around towards the corner like that. Exact same thing on this side. And there we go. All right, give that a little bit of a burnish. Now, I know that the upper portion is going to show, and this measures, it's about 1.5 inches of space that I have to decorate here. So I want to make sure that as I add these various other elements, that I stay within the edge of the card, because I want this to be able to fit inside of an envelope, but I also want to be able to see these items up in that upper portion. So I'm going to begin by placing my next fern. I'll put one there. then for my pretty little flowers, they look almost like primulas. I'm going to do a combination of dimensional and glue. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, I want the large flower to be slightly raised using the dimensional. And then I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to make sure that that stem and this little flower stay down flat. And I'm going to put 3 of these down. I'm going to let these two just overlap a little bit. Okay, so those are my main design elements. Now the next step is to just add some of this beautiful gold accents. So what I can do is, I have the remainder of my wreath shape, and you can see how gorgeous that is. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out a little piece of this. So I think I'll start on this side. I'm just going to tuck that under there like that. This is my silicone glue mat that's just going to help me to keep my surface here from getting too sticky. I'm going to tuck that under there a little bit. I'm going to do something similar on the other side. So I like this little fern shape. I'm going to grab that. There we go. I'm going to give that a little bit of a blot. Sandra says, I love how you layer. You inspire me. Well, thank you so much, Sandra. You know, I'm inspired by the ferns and by the wonderful die cuts that come with this set. And I just love any opportunity to get added texture to the cards to make them extra special. Okay, isn't it beautiful? I do have, the other part of this wreath that I particularly love are these three little leaves. So I want to make sure that I get those on there as well. And I think if I just trim it right like so, it's going to fit nicely. I'll grab it from this side. There we go. All right, I think that's a good start. We can add a little more later if we choose to, but for now, I'm going to give that a good burnish. Just going to flip it over so I have the smooth side up to burnish. And if I get my pocket, you can see that it's looking something like that. Now, I also have, in my goodie bag, I've got my queen bee. So let's get her out. So I've got my queen bee, which is gold heat embossed on the So Saffron. I have my eensy beensy tiny heart that's cut out of the brush gold foil specialty paper. You can also use the plain gold foil paper, would work beautifully for that. And I've got her wings, which I've cut out with vellum. And all I'm going to do is add a drop of glue to the center portion. I'm going to line that up with the bottom wing. Now, when you're using vellum, it's not as absorbent as the cardstock, so you just want to hold that in place for a minute and let that glue set up. And then I'm going to take this tiny little heart and put a drop of glue on there. Now this is where the multi-purpose liquid glue is so great, because you can get just the teeniest amount, and I'm just kind of pushing that around so that it's spread all over that heart. I'll zoom you in for this. And now I'm just going to place that right on top. Make sure that's straight. So there she is, the queen bee in all her glory. Let that dry for a second. Now you can press those vellum wings up so you get a little more dimension. And if I take the card, oops, too much. Okay. So if I take my little insert out, queen bee is going to go right down into the corner like so. Now I'm going to glue her down flat because she has to slide in and out of the triangular pocket, so I don't want to add extra bits to get caught up. And what I want to do is I want to get her, let's get this straight, I want to get her situated so that she's under the area that is exposed when it's slipped in. So I want her to be a surprise down in the bottom of the pocket. And again, give that a good burnish. Okay, so there she is, looking kind of like that. Now, if you have any places where you feel like you need a little more gold, you can go ahead and use any of these bits. Whoops, wrong way, sorry. Hold on. There we go. Any of these little gold bits will fill in those areas nicely. So she's going to go in there like so. And last but not least, I have my message. So for this card, I selected You're on My Mind. I just kind of like that because I love sending note cards to people when they don't expect it. So when it's not necessarily their birthday or a holiday, but just something out of the blue to surprise them. So this one I thought was really nice to let somebody know that you're thinking about them. And now what I'm going to do is, and this label, by the way, is also in the Natural Prints die set. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut that down the middle, like so. And then take my sentiment. I'm just going to run a thin bead of glue along the top. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. Let me make this a little better. Like that. And then I'm going to adjust this so I have about 1/8 of an inch reveal. Get that lined up. So just enough so it's got a little bit of a gold border peeping through. And then exactly the same thing on the other side. Just a tiny thin bead of glue. You don't need a lot for this. And I think it's easier to do it this way. Get that lined up. That looks pretty good. And then this is going to fit nicely right on the top. Now, I think I'm going to go ahead and put this on dimensionals. Here we go. And the way I want to place this, I want the top of the shape to come up a little bit. I just want to get that centered on there. Actually, I've got that top dimensional too high, I'm going to pull that off and put it, well, I guess we don't need it. All right, so don't do what I did. Make sure you keep this area free from the dimensional. There we go. All right, so that is the card just about done. We've got one last thing to do. And this is optional, but I have the champagne rhinestone basic jewels. So I'm going to go ahead and scatter a few of these around. There are 3 different sizes, and I'm just going to mix them up. And then I'll put a big one down below. A couple of these smaller ones. Oops, stuck to my finger. Get on there. There we go. Maybe one more. Right there. Okay, everybody, so that is my very opulent, very elegant triangle pocket fold card. Got plenty of room to put your message here. You just pull the bow up and get the beautiful queen bee surprise on the inside. And it slides back in perfectly. Lots of texture, lots of sparkle, and beautiful kind of ferny, mossy spring feel. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that gave you some ideas. I'd love to see what you do with this, especially with other kinds of DSP and other colorways. So if you are a member of the Dandelion Paper Pals, which is open to anybody, if you'd like to be a member, just put a comment below and then search for the Dandelion Paper Pals on Facebook and ask to be invited in, and I will let you in. And there, what you can do is you can post your projects that you've made that have been inspired by something that you've seen me do here on one of my Facebook Lives. And so if you have this set, and again, this is called Nature's Prints, and of course the queen bee with the hive folder. So if you have a similar kind of a design using these things, we'd all love to see them because we all learn from one another, and it's always a wonderful inspiration to see what everybody else is doing. So thank you so much for joining me today. Stay well, stay happy, have a wonderful weekend, and I will be back on Monday for Marvelous Monday. And actually, just as a surprise, if you're available tomorrow, I think I'm going to tune in tomorrow for something new called Silent Sunday at 12 noon. And I'm just going to work in my watercolor sketchbook and do a little bit of painting. So if you'd like to join me then, please set your alarm, and I will see you back here at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for Silent Sunday.